Hello everyone, it is me, world famous Yakuza speedrunner Groob, who set the world record in the entire series in about 7 minutes a year ago today as of the upload of this video, unless I screwed up the upload. With that run, a lot of people claimed that it wasn't legit, saying that I used lots of cuts or edits in order to make it seem as though I was seamlessly playing through the games without any sort of foul play involved. Now of course, I wanted to say to those people, shut up. Dude. Now in order to prove that this was a legit run, accepted by legitimate speedrunning organizations, I wanted to show you more of a tutorial on how I actually beat the world record, as opposed to the previous video where I just recorded the run itself. Now for this we'll do chronological order, meaning that we'll actually start with the spin-off Kenzan. Now unfortunately with Kenzan, my actual PS3 doesn't work anymore because it likes to just turn itself off at random times, and it's kind of inconsistent whether or not I can actually do a speedrun with it, considering that it will just turn off at random intervals. So unfortunately I do have to emulate the game. A big problem with Kenzan emulation as well as PS3 emulation in general is that there's lots of issues that you can't really fix. For Kenzan, a lot of the times if you just emulate the game it will look red for whatever reason. I don't know why it does this, but if you toggle a bunch of different settings you can actually get it to look just fine. However, the big problem with that is that for some reason in OBS it looks like this. That's not a joke, I don't know why it does that, it just does it. And so, because of my last video where a lot of people criticized me for editing, this one will be completely unedited. So, let's start the Kenzan run. Now, the simple solution here is you want to just skip all the cutscenes, you know, mash through all the dialogue, it's pretty easy. The game plays pretty similarly to the other Yakuza games, so it's not like any sort of, you know, difficult concepts you have to grasp or anything like that, but as you can see here, we can skip this section by doing this, and now this is actually really convoluted strategy, so you want to pay close attention to what I'm doing here. Anyway, after that you get to the next boss fight, and after beating him, oh look at that, we're already at chapter 5. This is really easy to be honest, but if you're not paying close attention to what I'm doing, you're not going to know what I'm doing. Then when we get up to this section of the story, you can see that
to the last man, spare no one for
man, why didn't anyone tell me Kenzan's story is this good? What? I've just been speedrunning through the whole time, look at this, oh my god! Anyway, then you... hang on a second, let me... okay, there we go. And it's really just that easy. So anyway, we move on to Ishin now. So in my run, I made a bit of a joke that only speedrunners would understand because it's a bit of a speedrunning community sort of thing. You wouldn't understand. But anyway, my run in Ishin was actually 100% accurate, and here is why. In Ishin, you want to start a fresh save on whatever difficulty you want, but preferably a brand new one on easy, because that is usually just the standard. Now skip some of the cutscenes, do some of the tutorials, and come over here to this thing, which translates to options. Ishin was actually a great game, because it was the first one to let you save anywhere you wanted, which they then carried over to Kiwami 1, but annoyingly not 0, because apparently it didn't work properly or something like that. You could mod it into the PC version, but yeah, whatever. Below the save option is this one here, which is load. And so what you want to do is click on that and load your completed save file, and that's it. It's just too easy.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
But anyway, now we move on to Yakuza 0, and some people were a bit confused as to how I managed to run away during this section with Nishiki, because as you can see it has an invisible wall. Now you need to get past this wall in order to do the 0 to Kiwami skip, so the way to do that is... So before we move on to the Kiwami remakes, we're actually going to look at the original PS2 versions of Yakuza 1 and 2. Now the two of these don't have any specific tips or tricks to keep in mind when playing them, because after all they're rather short on their own. So my only advice I can provide to you is, well, as with everything, practice makes perfect. It may not be instant and may take quite a while, but if you keep at it long enough and keep trying as hard as you can, one day you'll eventually see a lot of improvement. Your biggest competition is you. You're not competing against the entire world, but you're competing against your past self. Rather than pushing towards beating someone else, what you should instead do is always look at how well you did last time and try to beat that instead. So rather than trying to get the world record, try to aim for beating your personal best. I mean, this applies to all things really. At school, instead of comparing yourself to the top student of your class, compare your grade to how you did last time. At the gym, instead of looking at how much the biggest guy in the room's lifting, just try and think about how much you lifted last time. So rather than doubting yourself because you're not as good as other people, be proud of yourself for becoming a better person. And once again, this may take time, but one day, if you just keep at it long enough, you'll be able to set that world record. Anyway, then you just come over here and you clap high. Now for the Kiwami 1 to 2 skip, you had to fiddle with some settings that were only possible to edit on PC, so I did have some comments of people asking me how you can do that on console, and it's quite simple actually. So what you have to do is Now in Kiwami 2, there's actually a roadblock here in the form of the Man in Black, even though the game is actually kind of easy because of how much damage you can potentially do. I mean, like, watch this recording of the Ryuji fight. I did it on a fresh save file with the minimum possible damage that I could deal and on legend difficulty, and all it took were a few hits and he was out cold. And you know, the Man in Black is just so overpowered that it kind of makes me want to look through the game files and see if there's some sort of thing in here that, like, hold on, the hell's this? Confidential. All right, let's have a look. Bunch of images in here. Confidential images. Just all the same thing. All confidential. Okay, well, it's a DDS file. I've dealt with those before. Let's have a look. All right, so this one. Okay, this is the front of the Sega headquarters. Nothing too special. I mean, it's probably just in here because, like, it's just a placeholder image or something like that. I'm not too sure. This next one, it's just Yokoyama with a group of people in... Wait a second. No, that can't be him. Is that the Man in Black? Hang on, let's look at these other images. Okay, it's Yokoyama again, but... No, he's there too? This was right after the summit. He wasn't at the summit, or was he? He's presenting something? These Sega representatives, is that why the Sega office was in that first image? Don't tell me, is he pitching a game to these people? Wait, what's that on the whiteboard? I mean, it looks like No, that's the Japanese logo for Fist of the North. No, please, for the love of God, don't tell me what this final image is. Now, last time for Yakuza 3, I didn't specify a very crucial detail for the run of the game. Commonly, in other video game speedruns, a specific language or version of the game will be chosen, usually because it's faster than another one. For example, the English dub of Judgment is actually faster than the Japanese version because of certain scenes ultimately being shorter due to the length of the lines or the speed at which they're said. But anyway, for Yakuza 3 in particular, the Japanese, not language, but regional version of Yakuza 3 on the PS3 is actually significantly longer than the international version of the game. Now, the main reason for that is because of several things being cut from the Western version of the game. Now, some of you may know that certain mini-games and whatnot were cut from the side content of the game, but what I'm sure you didn't know about was a very lengthy section of the game's story that was cut out due to concerns by Sega of America that this section would be too jarring for the player and can actually cause motion sickness. For this reason, speedrunners, even in Japan, will usually get their copies of the game from somewhere like America in order to not deal with this lengthy section. Now, what is this section? Well, at a certain point in the story, Kiryu needs to hurry back to Kamurocho as soon as possible, but knows that if he were to fly from Okinawa to Tokyo, it would take far too long, and he needs to somehow get there much quicker. So Kazuma pulls out of his Deus Ex Machina arse a jet and a runway that Kiryu can use to get him a direct trip straight to Tokyo significantly quicker than a commercial jet could. Now in the Western version, you simply hop on a plane and then it loads and bam, you're in Kamurocho. But in the Japanese version, well, you actually have to fly the plane yourself, and it's a little... Now for Yakuza 4, it's actually quite simple. The main skip used for this game that actually cuts down on the length by, I think, a few hours is really simple. Genuinely, I don't even need to explain it to you. All I need to do is just show you this footage.
お前は今、自分の兄弟を裏切ったんだぞ。それがどんなことか分かってんのか？
ええ、分かってます。
Now, for the for the PSP games, I recently went to Japan for a holiday, and this is legit, this isn't just a bit in the video, and I bought a PSP for 3,850 yen, which is a freaking bargain, because in Australia it's like $291, and that's Australian dollars, so for US dollars it's about like 5 cents. And while I was over there, I bought a bunch of Japanese Yakuza games, including the 2 PSP games. I never owned a PSP until now, because growing up I was more of a Nintendo handheld kid, you know, I always had my Game Boy, my DS, and my 3DS, and so it's pretty nice actually having a PSP for once. But anyway, that's besides the point. I bring this up because I didn't actually know about the battery life of the PSP, but one very great thing is that you can actually finish the entire run before a single charge of your battery runs out. But anyway, as you can see here, I'm just currently running around a bit, and we're going towards the next point in the story where I can show you the main skip that I am going to use. So once you start approaching the next objective, what you want to do is Oh my god, man. Right, oh. Alright, PSP games are done. We're not doing it. PSP battery sucks dick. And like I was saying before, I bought a bunch of games while I was over in Japan, and one of them was Yakuza Dead Souls, or Of the End as it's called in Japan. Haha. This game, now that I finally own it, I can finally go ahead and... Ugh. Now for Yakuza 5, I've seen a lot of people online, as well as speedrunners themselves, roll through the snow during Saijima's hunting sections. Now at first I thought that this was faster, but after doing a test where I stood at the exact same point just in front of a tree and ran to the same rock, I found that walking was actually faster, just by a little bit, but that could just be my own testing parameters. I don't know if I've done something wrong or whatever, but bear that in mind. The other thing to bear in mind is that somehow he beat the game in 6 hours. That's how long it takes me to get from one end of the street to the other in this fucking game because of all the random encounters. How did he do it in 6 hours? Yakuza 6 is actually a pretty easy game, to be honest. It's really not that... Oh, it's already over. Now we come to Judgment. Judgment and Lost Judgment actually recently got PC ports, which is 1, very nice for people who couldn't play it before, 2, very good for speedrunning. Now the reason for this is because of a certain option only present within the PC version. In Judgment, you have the option to hide the UI now. So this is good for someone like me who likes to record footage without any HUD, or people who like to immerse themselves a bit more by getting rid of health bars and whatnot. But an actually really good thing about it is that, as you can see here in the overworld, it hides things like your objective marker in the top right or your minimap in the bottom left, although you can hide the minimap on its own. But anyway, in Lost Judgment, in the overworld, it also hides the really annoying button prompts that you see at all times that for some reason you still can't get rid of. However, the main great thing about this hiding of the UI that you can choose is that in combat, it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. How could you have done that? You had so long to make the PC port and you fuck it up. Like a Dragon's actually a really easy game to... Oh, whoops, this is the wrong game. Now we move on to Lost Judgment, which actually has a very classic video game speedrunning skip. So for this one, we actually managed to skip a very big portion of the game, and the game incorrectly loads us to much later in the story. So the way we do this is we come to Serio High School in Chapter 4, and when you run out of the door, now this might be a bit hard if you have an SSD, like if you're on PS5, Xbox Series, or a PC if you've got one. While the game is loading, what you actually want to do is you want to hold backwards, so down on your analog stick, or S or whatever, and mash the interact button so you can go back through the door back to inside. And so instead of loading us back inside Serio High School, it'll actually replace us back outside it. However, a bit of a problem with it is that it does cause the graphics to be a bit weird. But anyway, as you can see here, we still have Yagami, we still have the crane, tiger, snake, and boxing style. See, it's still him. And we actually skip to the king boss fight, because King, yeah, he's a boss in the game, and so this fight is actually quite easy. What you need to do is, it's kind of hard for me. Tekken Tag Tournament 2 is a bit weird because of the whole like tag. No, it's Lost Judgment. Alright, and now the last skip we can do is the speedrun skip to see how quickly you can click the subscribe button. Haha, see, I got you there, didn't I? And if you read the description, like, you know, no one does, 'cause no one ever reads my descriptions. I put in so much effort into all of them, and no one ever reads them. I sit there. Anyway, while he's having a rant back there, if you want to actually look at proper Yakuza speedruns, I would highly recommend Froob on Twitch, or you can just watch his VODs on YouTube. His runs are really entertaining, and he also explains exactly what he's doing in every single aspect of the run, so you can also try and use those tips and tricks to help make your runs quicker. And some of the things he says are things that, even though I've played the games for 2 years, didn't know about, and it would have made everything so much quicker. And it's such a pain in the ass. Are you having a rant too now? Yeah, I'm having a rant. Anyway, while the two of them have a rant, what you can go ahead and do it... Shut up! Oi, shut the fuck up!